Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We are so delighted to be here to talk about the Arts in Education Master of Education program here at Harvard Graduate School of Education. We are going to go around making introductions, and we will provide an overview of the program, the curricula, the student experience, as well as outcomes. And then we will finally talk about both admissions and financial aid processes. So we're really thrilled today to be joined with faculty, staff, and students. And so we will go around our table here and give an introduction.
Hi, everyone. I'm Steve Seidel. I'm the Faculty Director of the Arts in Education program.
Hi there. I'm Scott Rusher, Program Administrator for many years.
And I'm Margaret Okada-Sheck, an Assistant Director of Admissions, as well as the liaison for the Arts in Education program.
Hi, my name is Jacob Watson. I come most recently from Chicago, Illinois, and I am a theater artist and an alum from 2018 of the Arts in Education program.
Hi, everybody. I'm Camila Garcia Enriquez. I come from Cuba, and I am a visual artist, and I also graduated this year.
Hi, I'm Isabella Pires Arce, and I'm from Brazil. I am a ceramic artist, and I'm also just graduated now in 2018.
Wonderful. And so Steve is going to get us started to talking about the program.
Hi, everybody. I wanted to say a few things to kind of introduce you to the Arts in Education program. So AIE, as we call it, is one of a series of master's programs here at the Graduate School of Education. We're entering our 22nd year as a program, and we have, at this point, over 900 graduates, artists, educators, folks who have a passion for life and work at the intersection of art and learning, people from all over the United States, but all over the world as well. It's important to note that we think of the AIE program as the beginning of a relationship. For the last 11 years, we've had an alumni-led network that called Continuing the Conversation, that's committed to literally that, carrying on conversations that began here at HGSE in the AIE program, but continuing them both with fellow alumni, other folks in that 900 and growing group, but also colleagues as well. It's not just an alumni association. It's a group of folks who want to ask serious questions about the purposes and the roles of the arts in education and want to continue that conversation throughout their career. AIE is here as a program, I think, really because of Project Zero, a research organization that's 50 years old that has been studying the role and the processes of learning in and through the arts since its very beginning days in the 1960s under the direction of Nelson Goodman. Goodman gave over the leadership of that organization to Howard Gardner and David Perkins, and in time, David and Howard gave over the leadership to me, and then to Shari Tishman, and now Daniel Wilson. I urge you to go both to the website for Continuing the Conversation, CTC, but also to the website for Project Zero as well. All of these are programs and activities that surround the AIE program, but our hope is to give you a lot more information about the program and what you might experience during your time here. So I'd like to turn now to Scott Rusher. Scott, as he said, is the Program Administrator for AIE. He's going to explain some pieces about the curriculum and the requirements and who applies to AIE. Scott?
Yeah, Steve. I believe ever since Project Zero researcher Jessica Hoffman Davis founded the Arts and Ed program in the mid-1990s, AIE students have been required to take every year just 2 courses. This is a big attraction for arts educators looking to do graduate work in arts education. Steve here teaches both of those courses. He has done so for 10 to 15 years, somewhere in there. There's a fall course and a spring course, a sequence of 2 courses taken only by arts and education program students. Every Friday morning, it meets from 8:30 a.m. to noon. It's a sort of Friday morning learning party, lots of variety of activities and presentations with breakfast to start, haha. And so students get together once a week for that. They get together in other ways during the week as well, but that is one solid community time for arts education students. And they are able to sample courses from all over the ed school for their other courses. Generally, they'll take a total of 8 to 10 courses for the year. Besides the 2 core courses that meet on Friday morning, AIE students have to do arts-related research in at least arts-related work in at least 3 of the other courses. They have no problem finding ways to do that, as you can imagine. A theater person such as Jacob might find ways to do drama education study in all sorts of courses, no matter what the course is called, like nonprofit management or history of U.S. education, public education, or a cognitive science course or something like that. It doesn't have to be explicitly arts-sounding course at all. It can be a course in any number of topics, including topics taught across Harvard. You're able to cross-register at other Harvard schools, the Kennedy School of Government, for example, the Graduate School of Design, and the Faculty of Arts and Sciences, for 3 examples. You're able to take half of your courses at those other schools. So there's a great resource for choosing your classes. And one such person who I think cross-registered this year for a course is Camila Garcia Enriquez. Thank you, Camila.
Yes, in the spring, I really felt that I needed to go back to art making, and I found a course in the Faculty of Arts and Sciences in the Department of Environmental and Visual Studies, and I took a drawing course for both graduate and undergraduate students that went on twice a week for 3 hours in a row, and that gave us access 24/7 to a studio, and that was a great opportunity for me.
Nice. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
So let me share a little bit about who applies. And Camila, I'm glad to hear that, and I hope that Jacob and Isa will also share a little bit about how you negotiated your artistic backgrounds during your time here. I want to be clear that not everybody who applies and comes to AIE identifies as an artist at all. There are folks who come who have deep backgrounds in art history or museum education, other areas, who are passionate about the arts, but not necessarily seeing themselves as art makers. When I became the director of this program about 14 years ago, one of the things that I fell in love with immediately about it was the wide range of backgrounds that people came from who were in the AIE cohort. And I want to say a word about that range. So first of all, people are in this cohort from all kinds of artistic backgrounds and, as I saw, artistic domains and practices, or not, as I just noted. But they also come with deep backgrounds and passions for working in schools, but out of schools as well. There are students in this program who work with the youngest possible learners, from infants into preschool, and people who work with seniors and adults. There are people in this program who are in the earliest stages of their professional careers, and people who have been in the professional world for 20 years or more. All of these, and people come with different ideas about the purposes of the arts in education. I think everyone comes with a desire to be open-minded, to think about the rich array of purposes for the arts in education. I think everyone comes with an ethical and moral sensibility, which makes people sensitive to context and to social issues. I think that everyone comes hungry to do serious academic work, but also to be thinking at all times about the practical dimensions of the study that they're doing. So all of those create an incredible richness of ideas, perspectives, experiences that are in the cohort. And I know that I've learned, frankly, as much about the arts and education field as it is and is evolving from the students here as from any other source in my career. So let me hand this back now to Scott to share a little bit about some of the advantages of AIE.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. I believe we've already enumerated some of those, one real strong one being the ability to take courses from all over Harvard, and as well as the ability to get to know a whole lot of fellow arts educators from a nice variety of backgrounds and artistic influences and educational purposes, I guess you would say. Those are certainly attractions here. On the slide, you'll see that we have some interaction with some guests from other areas of the arts education world. In class, you might see a visitor from the Silk Road Project, which is based in Cambridge, Yo-Yo Ma's kind of world music education outfit. We've had people from Reggio Emilia, Italy. Steve is close to pedagogistas, I think is the word I want, from Reggio Emilia, which has been a big influence here, and in Project Zero. There is there are visitors from the policy world, such as Cassius Johnson comes every year, and Ron Berger from the Expeditionary Learning outfit in Western Massachusetts, a fantastic curriculum design outfit. You get to interact with these people as well as with all the Project Zero researchers, many of whom teach classes that you would be taking. And yeah, so good stuff. Thank you. As for the next slide on graduates and careers, I'm trying to call up in my memory the long list of grads I wrote up this spring. I chose four cohorts from the past, full of people who I've been well acquainted with. The classes of 2003 was my first class, 2007, 2011, and 2015. You notice I stepped 4-year stepping stone. I chose about a dozen students from each of those cohorts and type them up in a list that will be appearing on our website soon. And I linked their LinkedIn page to each person's to each person's name. There's the alumnus's current job and his or her LinkedIn page, which offers you a resume, basically, an entire career trajectory. So you'll be able, I'd be happy to send that to you if you contact me. You'll be able to click into the LinkedIn page and see how someone from 2003, who's an arts education professor at City University of New York, ended up getting there by going to grad school and working in museums and so on. As you can imagine, somebody who graduated in 2015 doesn't have a very long list of job steps yet, but that even that can be good to reach. It seems that we've noticed that people go through some job changes the first 3 to 5 years and kind of settle into a happy situation if they haven't already done it. Moving along to Margaret. Thank you, Margaret.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. So now that you have all heard from both Steve and Scott about the academic component of being a graduate student here, now I want to talk about one of the other really important pillars, which is our community. And I am so thrilled that we have three fantastic students joining us today. And so the first question I have for you is, what brought you to HGSE? Where were you in your lives, and what sort of made you think like this is the right time and this is the right program for me? Jacob, would you mind starting us off?
Sure, absolutely. I'll start off by saying I always knew I wanted to go to graduate school, and I waited what felt like a long time for me. It was about 6 years since my undergraduate to really make sure I chose the right program. And I had a long list of programs. I did a ton of research, and there were a number of folks that I had known who came out of AIE, so I was very curious about it for a while. And the thing that really landed it for me was that I had a ton of training in the practice of making theater and had transitioned somewhat informally into the education sector and was working in schools fairly consistently and in community spaces as well, doing a lot of civic engagement and social justice theater work, as well as arts integration. And I got to a point where I felt like I was missing a lot of the theory underlying what I was doing. I knew that it worked, but I didn't always know why. And so I really hunted for a program that was going to be educationally focused as opposed to theater focused, but that wasn't going to be about getting certified to become a teacher in a classroom, because I wanted to stay in a lot of nonprofit spaces. And this was really, honestly, for me, the only program that had the ability to kind of think theoretically, to think across artistic disciplines, which I was really excited to do, and to think about what it means to learn.
Camila?
Yeah, before I came here, I was working as an art teacher in a school in Havana. And one of the reasons I decided to pursue graduate studies is that I felt that in that typical space, I had already learned all that I could, and I needed a wider scope for what could be done, not only in classrooms, but outside of classrooms as well. And I agree with my colleague here that this is a program that has the most versatile outcome for what one can do when you graduate from high school. And I knew that I was still open to go back to a classroom, but I really wanted to explore museum education or nonprofit education.
I'm Isabella. For me, I was teaching arts and through the arts in Brazil, and I started getting to a point where the questions were becoming bigger than myself, and I felt the need to talk to other people who were facing the same questions or others that were similar to mine, so I could get ahead in my practice and be a better teacher and understand better how to create the environment that I was looking for. Unfortunately, in Brazil, I couldn't find any programs that were arts educational focused. In fact, I learned later that around the world, too, it's very hard to find a program that is that focused. Usually they're open to arts investigation, but they don't have a cohort that will be studying specifically that. So the collective experience was very important to me. So I was already attracted, but then I had already encountered some of the resources provided by Project Zero, and so that was something else that made my eyes shine a little to this program. And the cultural life in Cambridge and the Boston area as a whole was very attractive to me because sometimes being a full-time teacher, you need things that are closer to your home so you can continue to enjoy the cultural life. And that was in my mind as well at that point in my life.
Thank you so much. So now that you've all just recently graduated, so you've had the full academic experience, and we're sort of curious, how did this program meet with your expectations?
Yeah, I can start off again. As I
this is Jacob again.
Yep, Jacob here. I think it really gave me an opportunity to zoom out and locate my practice in the landscape, both through the relationships with my colleagues in the cohort and the types of work that they were doing, as well as through the readings that we would do in the course and some of the professionals we would meet. I really was able to develop language for things I already knew, but maybe didn't know that I knew or didn't realize that, you know, this was the term for that or this was where else this was happening in the world. And then I think another thing I want to highlight is just a sense of what I would call a rigorous curiosity, that there's a sense, there's a really strong research focus for me in this program, but I would say that research has really come to mean a whole variety of things, and it has come to mean things that I do in my artistic practice and just ways of being curious about the world. And I feel like this cohort, we really push each other. We challenge our assumptions about the world and about how things are. And this year we've been saying we like to call each other higher in our work. And so I think I've really grown from that as well.
Yeah, so this is Camila again. Now that I've just graduated, it's easier for me to look back on the experience and comment on it. I remember that one of the things that surprised me the most was realizing that a lot of the things that I was learning, I wanted to apply in retrospect. So it's not so much as, oh, I don't want to go back to the classroom and I want to do this, but it was more, wow, if I had known this, I would have done this, this, and that so much more differently. And as a matter of fact, right now, I'm actually trying to go back to a classroom again to do it a lot better than before. So in that way, I was surprised that if I were to go to a different space, I would feel ready, such as a museum or a nonprofit. But I'm surprised to know that I actually want to go back to where I was with a new mindset.
This is Isabella. For me, it exceeded all my expectations, and I had really high expectations. Mostly the academic rigor that I was sure they were going to push me, and they did. But the nice thing was that everybody was here to support everyone. The entire the community, the teachers in the program, and our people in our cohort, everyone has a strength, and we're all looking at each other's shoulders and helping with filling the gaps, especially not being an English speaker as my first language. I also found that everybody was so talented and everybody was so willing to share their talent and to learn from each other that I didn't expect so much involvement for my part into everybody else's work and from everybody else into what I was doing, and the genuine interest that the professor showed, and the other people from other cohorts and the graduate school too, that really exceeded my expectations in the community environment. It was so good.
And Isabella, you could not have actually transitioned us better to talk about cohort and community, because this is, I think that if you speak with any HGSE student, staff, or faculty member, they would all tell you that we are a very, very unique and special place in the Harvard University landscape. So, for the students, if you wouldn't mind just sharing, how were you able to make a home at within AIE and then within HGSE broadly speaking? How were you able to, you know, come in for this 9-month program and really make it your own? So, Isabella, would you mind sharing a little bit more or expanding a little bit more on how you were able to do that?
Yeah, sure. First, when we arrived, we're all together with our cohort, and then they already found that we had shared concerns in our coming to this program and to this part of the world. And there are so many international students, too, that made me feel so much more at home and not so much as a foreigner, I have to say. But all the questions that each other has that were different from the ones that we had before. Everybody was open to the conversation and to continue the thinking and a chain and coming back to the issues again, and that made me feel very, very in a family, very welcome in a family, I would just say. I also felt that most people were driven to create change and to help others to create change too. So I felt very encouraged to pursue areas that were scary to me, like financial management, for example. But I met so many people that said, of course you can do it, I'm taking that class too, let's do the project together, or let's talk about it before you write your paper so we can have a better idea. And that was so encouraging to me. I cannot say that I did this alone ever, because from applying to finding a way of moving here and to finishing my studies, I was together with all sorts of people from all over the world, of all ages, and it was a blast.
Camila?
Yeah, kind of repeating a little bit of what Isa said. One of the things that made me feel the most at home was the fact that so many people were able to speak Spanish. Starting with Scott, for example, our coordinator, and there were people in the cohort who speak Spanish as well, people around the school, and it's not a big deal because we're already fluent in English, but it feels really nice when you find spaces where you can still have your own language be the main thing. In that line, I was really excited to go to the Latinx get-togethers and meetings around campus, and I also loved, in the sense of community that we're talking about, how we met every week in sections. So we were a smaller group from the cohort, and I had the luck of having the same teaching fellow for the entire year, and they became pretty much another professor / friend / classmate. It was really amazing to share our art, our worries, our feedback about the program. So that's really unprecedented in any other space that I've been before.
This is Jacob again. I think you can't really talk about arts and education without talking about relationships, and I know something that was a concern for me moving here from building up many years of work in another city was that creative community and finding artistic collaborators, people who understand the work that I'm interested in, who push me with their interests. And I really think I'm a firm believer that learning doesn't happen in the classroom necessarily. It happens in the conversations between classes and in the sparks that are created by what happens in class. And so I feel like I learned so much between meeting somebody on the couch after a discussion that was very stimulating, or during course shopping, coming out of a preview of a course and saying to somebody, I'm really interested in this topic, do you know anything about this, and finding that you maybe do have a shared interest, and that you can do something about it. I think to underscore something that Isa was saying, I find that the people who come here are very proactive. There's a lot of initiative, and there were more than a few events this year where somebody said, I wish this thing was happening on campus, and Steve basically said, well, it could be, and you could be happening it. And those are the kinds of places where I felt like I really developed community with people.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So as you can tell from the students and what they're sharing is that so much of the learning happens in the classroom as well as outside of the classroom. There are an enormous number of co-curricular opportunities. The slide here is showing you an Ask With forums, which are basically a speaker series that happens every academic year here on campus. And we bring speakers from all different spaces within education, whether they're scholars on sex education, or on equity issues, or on children's literature. We've had Elizabeth Warren on campus and other policy and political figures. There's also access to Harvard Art Museum, as well as loads of other lectures, book talks, workshops. So there's certainly tons of other ways for students to supplement their education. Across Harvard University, so not only are you an HGSE or Harvard Graduate School of Education student, you are also a student at Harvard University. So both Camila and Scott sort of mentioned you are able to take cross-register classes at all the other Harvard University schools, but you also have access to the resources such as the Bach Center for Teaching and Learning, or Harvard Ed Portal, the American Repertory Theater, and the museums, the Innovation Lab, which is a resource for all students, for all students at Harvard University, if you are interested in creating your own nonprofit or really understanding how to create a pitch. So entrepreneurship is definitely a big thing here at Harvard University. So loads of other ways to determine that for yourself. This past year, we welcomed 687 students from all around the world and all around the country. As you can see, generally speaking, 3/4 of our students are female across Harvard University, not just in AIE, but this is at HGSE, sorry, specifically. So very indicative of the education sector as a whole. So these are, again, just for HGSE statistics. A little over 20% of our students are international, and of the domestic students, over 30% self-identified as a person of color. What I think Jacob shared that he didn't come straight from undergrad. Generally speaking, I would say that we bring in students straight from undergrad as well as folks that have 30 years of work experience, so loads of diversity in terms of the types of students that end up enrolling there. What I think is also really unique about HGSE is that it is primarily a full-time cohort model. So while this isn't a model for everyone, the majority of students have, made the sacrifices to, really take the time out of their life and focus on their own academic and professional development during the course of the 9-month period. AIE is unique in that a very small number are able to come part-time every year. So if you happen to be physically in the Boston-Cambridge area and we're interested in going part-time, that is a possibility. You would just indicate that on the application. And so now, again, this is Margaret Okada-Scheck. I'm the AIE admissions liaison, and I'm going to go quickly through the next set of slides to talk about admissions and financial aid. So, the first I'm going to talk about is financial aid. The first thing I want to say, generally speaking, is that admissions at HGSE is need-blind. What that means is that the admissions committee does not look at your financial aid or any financial documents at all when making admissions decisions. So the admissions process and the financial aid process are separate. It's really important for students to start thinking well in advance about funding their graduate education. HGSE definitely offers both need-based grants and merit awards. So there is a separate financial aid application for students to apply for financial aid. If you are interested, we have 3 merit awards, 2 of which you would apply for in the application for admission. The first is the Saul Zaentz Early Child Fellowship, which is specifically for those interested in early childhood education, and the Urban Scholars Fellowship is specifically for those that are interested in making an impact in urban education. The Leadership in Education Award you do not apply for. That is based on the strength of your application for admission. And so for the Saul Zaentz and the Urban Scholars Fellowships, those are just inside the application for admission, and that's how you would apply. There are other Harvard scholarships as well. So, for example, if you are currently in the Boston Public Schools or if you're in Boston Public Schools or Cambridge Public Schools, there is a CONAT Fellowship, which provides full tuition for folks who are coming from those backgrounds and are interested in going back into those school districts. We also have AIE-specific scholarships, such as the Ross Scholarship, and there's an AIE endowed fund, and those are also available for our students. You don't apply for it. You are considered based on the strength of your application. In addition, as we mentioned earlier, internships are a big thing for our students. So our students often engage in work-study internships and part-time work. So the majority of HGSE students actually are involved. And then it is a very real reality that our students, many of our students do have to choose to take out loans. So you want to make sure to educate yourself about that beforehand. The financial aid deadlines are strict, so I encourage you to really take note of these. January 5th is the application deadline, so that's also the deadline for merit-based fellowships. The HGSE financial aid office has a separate application of which you would have to submit that and the restricted scholarship application by February 8th, 2019. And then for U.S. citizens and permanent residents, we do I encourage you to complete the FAFSA, and that is the deadline, which is February 22nd. Please, 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 if you have any questions about financial aid or concerns, the first place to go is definitely their website. It's filled with a wealth of information, whether it's program handbooks. They have a directory of external grants and scholarships that I encourage you to go to. And if you're an international student, there are also information listed there. And there are also the office themselves is filled with dedicated professionals that are more than happy to answer any questions you have, and their email address is listed here. On to admissions. So if you are interested in the Master of Education program, that deadline is January 15th, 2019. That is a hard deadline, and we require all application materials to be received by our office on that date. We notify all students by March of 2019. The application the admissions application will get published sometime in September, and it's pretty straightforward. We require an application form, a statement of purpose, resume. We do require the GRE from all applicants. We do not waive this requirement. The TOEFL is required only if English is not your native language and you received your bachelor's degree from an institution where the sole medium of instruction is not in English. We also require all of your post-secondary transcripts. You just need to submit unofficial transcripts directly in the application. We also require 3 letters of recommendation, which can be a combination of academic or professional, depending on who you feel can best write a strong letter of recommendation on your behalf. The deadline, again, is going to be January 5th, 2019, and we notify all students by March of 2019. So if you are interested in exploring more about HGSE, we offer loads of different ways for you to connect with our office. This fall, we're going to have a series of on-campus events that we're really excited about. So if you are able to come to the Cambridge, Massachusetts area, as you can see, we have a bunch of different events. The ones that I would particularly like to highlight is on October 26th and 27th is our annual diversity recruitment program. This is for anybody who is interested in issues of diversity and social justice, and we offer a really, really packed and fantastic series of panels and workshops. There's loads of ways to connect with current students and faculty and staff. And then the following Friday, November 2nd, is a one-day open house event, which is also really, really fantastic and offers loads of different ways to connect with folks. And then on Saturday, September 29th and November 17th, those are just Saturday sessions. And then in addition, there's ways we offer weekly group information sessions as well as individual one-on-one appointments that are 20 minutes long with the admissions representative. And you can also, during the academic year, sign up for class observations, and that's a really great way to connect. And we also offer virtual events that are recorded on our website, so you can definitely log in then. So again, wherever you are around the country, around the world, please feel free to connect with us. We also have an active Twitter handle, which I encourage you to follow us on, and feel free to contact us at any time. And finally, before we end, I just want to turn things over to Steve to provide some closing remarks.
Hi, I just wanted to say 2 things. One, I wanted to pick up on the terrific opportunities that Margaret was pointing to for you all to get more information about the program. It's a big decision to whether or not to apply here. Graduate school is a big decision, and we want you to make the best possible decision. We want it to be a good fit. So do not hesitate, in addition, to be in touch with Scott or me. We are happy to try to answer your questions, get on the phone. If you can visit, that's great. You are always welcome to the AIE Friday Morning Core course. Many people visit us. And we're happy to put you in touch with alumni or current students, and I think that those are often the most helpful conversations you can have. So I wanted to say that, and I also wanted to say that just the fact that you are looking into graduate study at the intersection of art and education, art and learning, is wonderful. I think it's important. There is a kind of puzzle, I think, that this program kind of embraces, which is that sometimes you have to take a step back or a step out in order to take a step forward. And I appreciate everything that the students were saying, or now our graduates were saying, about the decision to do this, and also the intensity of the work. We talk a lot here about the importance of what I would call critical reflection, reflection that helps us to, as Jacob said, to challenge our assumptions about this sector, the arts sector in education, but also our assumptions about the world, how it is and how it could be. So in order to move forward, sometimes we have to step out or step back. I think that's part of what this is about. I invite you to learn more and would look forward to seeing your application if you decide that this might be appropriate for you. So Margaret?
Well, thank you so much, Steve. Thank you to the students. Thank you to Scott for joining us today. We hope this was helpful to you, and please feel free to be in touch if there's anything else we can provide you with.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.